I was about 5 miles into a 10-mile hike when I saw him. I was hiking alone. It was a route I'd done before, so I wasn't particularly worried. I knew the trail and I knew roughly how long it would take me to get back. It was a quiet day. There weren't many people around, and once I'd gotten several miles into the woods, I hadn't seen another hiker for quite a while. Then I reached a point where two trails came together. That's when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. There was someone about 50 yards away. At first, I assumed he was another hiker who had wandered off the trail. But something about the way he was moving immediately caught my attention. He was walking slowly through the woods, not on the trail. He was just moving between the trees. I stopped for a moment and looked at him. That's when he noticed me, and he stopped too. He leaned against a rock, and he just stared at me. He didn't wave. He didn't call out. He didn't ask for direction. He didn't appear to be looking for anything. He simply stood there, watching me. I was alone in the middle of the woods, and suddenly I became very aware of how far I was from the trailhead. So I kept walking. As I passed the area, I pulled out my bear spray. Not because I knew he was dangerous, I had no idea who he was. But I knew that something about the situation wasn't right. The worst part was that the trails ran parallel to each other for a while. That meant I couldn't simply walk away from him. Even though I stayed on the main trail, I could still see the other trail through the trees. And occasionally I could see him, still moving, still watching, so I picked up my pace. I kept telling myself that there was probably a perfectly innocent explanation. Maybe he was looking for something. Maybe he was lost. Maybe he was trying to find a place to relieve himself. Or maybe I was simply misinterpreting what I was seeing. But none of those explanations made me feel better, because every time I looked over, he was still there, following the trail that ran alongside mine. I started wondering whether he was deliberately keeping pace with me. The woods suddenly felt different. Every sound seemed louder. Every movement between the trees caught my attention. A branch breaking behind me made me turn around. Nothing, so I kept walking. Eventually, the two trails began separating. Mine went one direction, his went another. For a moment, I felt relieved. Then I realised something. I didn't know which direction he had taken. I couldn't see him anymore. I stood there listening. Nothing. No footsteps, no voice, just the wind moving through the trees. I continued hiking. I never saw him again. Nothing happened. He never approached me. He never threatened me. He never even spoken to me. And maybe that's what makes this memory so unsettling. Because I still don't know what he was doing out there. A man standing alone deep in the woods watching a stranger from 50 yards away, and then apparently travelling along the trail beside him. Maybe there was nothing sinister about it. Maybe I simply encountered another hiker who happened to be behaving strangely. But there's one thing I'll never forget. The moment he realised I had seen him, he stopped and stared directly at me.
I was a kid when this happened. My sister and I grew up in North Carolina in a house surrounded by woods. There weren't many neighbours around us, and because we knew the area so well, our parents usually let us explore. We went hiking through those woods all the time. It was something that we loved doing. There was a particular place deeper in the forest that we considered our favourite spot. It was quiet, hidden, and far enough away from the house that it felt like our own little secret. One Saturday afternoon, during the summer, my sister and I decided to go there again. We were both under 8 years old. Looking back, I realise how young we actually were, but at the time, we didn't think anything of walking around the woods by ourselves. The beginning of the hike was completely normal. The sun was shining through the trees, birds were making noise, leaves were crunching underneath our shoes. We were talking and laughing as we followed the trail. Then, without warning, I got this strange feeling. I can't really explain it. It was just a feeling that something wasn't right. I stopped and looked around. There was nothing there. No animals, no people, nothing unusual. My sister asked me what was wrong. I told her I didn't know. We kept walking. A few minutes later, we heard something behind us. Crunch. We both stopped. I turned around. Nothing. Just trees. My sister told me it was probably an animal. So we continued. Then we heard it again. Crunch. This time it sounded closer. We turned around together. Still nothing. We stood there for a few seconds, listening. The woods suddenly seemed much quieter than before. Then we heard another sound. Leaves moving. Someone was walking behind us. We started moving faster. So did whatever was behind us. At first, I convinced myself that we were imagining it. Then I looked over my shoulder and I saw someone. A person was moving between the trees. The moment they realised I'd seen them, they ran behind a tree. My sister and I froze. We didn't know who they were. We didn't know what they wanted. And we were too young to understand what we were supposed to do. I remember staring at the tree where the person had disappeared. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then I whispered to my sister that we needed to go. We turned around and started walking back towards home. We didn't run immediately. We were terrified that if we ran, whoever was behind us would start running too. So we walked, slowly, quietly, and every few seconds we could hear something behind us. Branches moving, leaves crunching, footsteps. We eventually started running. I don't remember much about the journey back. I just remember grabbing my sister's hand and running as fast as we could. We didn't stop until we reached our house. We burst through the door and told our parents what had happened. They went outside to investigate, but whoever had been following us was gone. There was no one in the woods. No explanation. No nothing. For years afterwards, I wondered whether we'd simply scared ourselves. Maybe it had been an animal. Maybe it was another person who happened to be walking around the woods. Maybe our imagination had turned something completely harmless into something terrifying. But I still remember one detail. When I look back that day, I didn't see someone simply walking along the trail. I saw someone hiding behind a tree. And they had been watching us. To this day, I don't know who that person was. I don't know how long they'd been following us. And I don't know what would have happened if we hadn't looked back. But one thing is certain. We never went hiking in those woods again.
Like what you heard?
Hit subscribe and like the video for more stories every Thursday and Sunday between 1800 and 2000 BST. And remember, curiosity opens doors better left closed.